So, hello everybody. Welcome to our series of talks with luxury hospitality professionals. Uh, this time it is my pleasure and honor to have Zoran Pejović here, the
Very true.
brain behind, the engine behind the groundbreaking hospitality company in Croatia, and I would say at least in Southeastern Europe. So, Zoran, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to have a chance to talk to you guys.
The pleasure is ours. And I would also like to welcome our visiting student, Marusha Marcus.
Hi.
She's visiting us from the renowned hospitality school Joanneum from Austria. But she's from our neck of the woods. She is from Maribor, Slovenia. So, Marusha, great pleasure to have you with us this semester.
Thank
So
you
I'd like
for having me.
Thank you, and for adopting you. So I would just like to turn over the microphone to you, Marusha, and maybe you just take it away.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Sir Zoran, for taking the time for our interview, even though it's Saturday morning. So I ordered our questions into three categories. First, we're gonna start with some personal background questions to get to know more. Then we're gonna go to the questions related to the Maslina Resort. And in the end, we're gonna touch the current situation in the world and what future might bring. That sounds okay?
Sounds good.
So let's start. Can you tell us something about yourself, how and when you started working in the luxury hospitality sector? What led you to this decision to become luxury hospitality expert? Why do you enjoy working in this kind of environment? What inspires and motivates you?
Well, there's a lot of questions there, lots to unpack, a lot of assumptions. I mean, I don't think I've ever said I enjoy doing it. But all right, I'm joking. Let's get to. So I'm a graduate of hospitality school, like yourself. I actually graduated. What did they call it back then? Hotel and resort management in Dubrovnik. Some 16 years ago, and then I got into that school by accident or by some interesting set of circumstances that led me to study. I never wanted to have anything to do with tourism and hospitality. My plan was to study political sciences and philosophy. So and then after that my career just again, either accidentally or by luck or by the combination of my personality traits, luck and accidents, ended up in the luxury segment. I went to the States and started working for one luxury resort, and ever since I've only worked in the upscale hospitality segment, and my specialty has become over the years the pre-opening and opening stages of the both hotels and restaurants. There is a major difference between running an established hotel and restaurant place that is either in a upscale or luxury segment and setting it up. So my specialty is the second one, setting it up. Everything from the conceptualization to design briefs and assistance with the technical aspects to creating all of the pre-opening plans from sales and marketing, PR, to an actual opening and training, recruiting, and setting it up. My career kind of took me around the world, and I've had a chance to work in, as I said, in the States. I've had a chance to work in China on a couple of occasions, to work in India, to work in Montenegro, to work in Croatia, and to work on the cruise ships where I've covered most of the seas. and I had a chance and pleasure to work for some of the most prestigious companies in the industry, like Amman Resorts, which is kind of a flagship among the luxury resorts in the world, still holding, I think, the most expensive average daily rate, room rate among all the luxury hotel chains, resort chains. And I had the same chance to work for Silver Sea Cruises, which is the equivalent of Amman at Seas. So I've had a chance to cover both, but I've had the chance to work for larger corporations as well, and to run my own businesses and companies and act as a consultant and a manager. So it's a yeah, I have 20 years of experience in the industry now, and it's a mix of everything. The defining characteristic of it is that I have always stayed in the luxury segment, and that what I've tried always to achieve is excellence. So that would be one defining characteristic. And many things have changed over the years in my career, and the motives and what inspires me, that has changed significantly over the years. I mean, when I was your age, when I was finishing in Dubrovnik, I saw myself, oh, I would like to see myself one day as a hotel manager, you know, I would like to see myself running the place. And then somehow miraculously 4 years later I was doing that, and I almost asked myself, okay, is this it? You know, what do I do now? You know, am I gonna do this for another 30 years? Or I'm gonna start something else and try to reinvent myself. And so then again, motivations changed, and I tried to come up with my own visions of hospitality, and to come up with my own understanding of what it is that drives this industry and what this industry means to us. And you know, often when we come out of schools, we take a lot of things for granted, and that's normal and that's expected. You know, you have a limited experience and you have some knowledge, and you just continue doing it, and then you kind of start understanding, okay, you know, what is luxury. I mean, I don't know, like, that's a question I think that you really will have to answer for this class, in order to move on. You know, it's like we are talking all about luxury hospitality, luxury industry, luxury this, luxury that. What is luxury? It's so many times we just utter words without even understanding what they mean, assuming that we all have the same understanding of the word, you know.
Yeah.
And then you have to say, okay, what luxury means in the economic sense, what does it mean in psychological terms, what does it mean in different, you can break it down in so many things. And then as you start breaking it down, new ideas kind of start appearing, and you start understanding the processes and the systems behind. Then you start understanding your product, and because you can look at anything by either by looking at the product or by processes or a business model, and any and every of these elements can have its luxury element to it, or all of them, and then you've really achieved something. So yeah, we can touch base on this, what is luxury, when we move to talking about Maslina maybe a bit more, because we have there our concept of mindful luxury.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of my personal background, please, if you want to know anything more, I can answer, but I would not take too much time on the bragging side of things.
Yeah, I think that's enough. So let's move on. We partly already answered this question, but I'm still gonna ask it. How does the day-to-day look like for your role as luxury hospitality expert? What other teams or departments are collaborating with you that you work close with?
Currently, I have 3-4 different heads.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running the hotel, running my own company, running the coordination with the development company whose helped build the project and coordinating with the owners. So there is a lot of different aspects that change throughout my day. And how does my day look like? A bit more crazy than I would like, honestly. It takes there is a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, we are still finalizing the construction and operating a hotel at the same time, and trying to position it as a luxury product on the international market, and to host numerous travel agents and journalists to showcase what we've built, and to prepare the team for things to come. You know, we have a junior team. We just hired 65, 70 people 2 months ago, most of whom had very little to limited previous experience in these kind of establishments. And it's going to take much longer to change the overall philosophy, to change the culture. It's an incremental change, you know. It's not, so it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of understanding. So my day mostly looks like talking. You know, I talk a lot, or I listen a lot. So it's a lot of dialogues, it's a lot of conversations. It's often it is more listening than me talking, but it's people need, especially I think in these times of uncertainty, you know, we are all facing so much uncertainty, because this is not a regular year, obviously. Like I'm sure we're going to touch on that later, but yeah, so it's a lot of conversing, a lot of dialogues, a lot of talking. So it's important to help people understand why they do what they do, and that is I think I see often myself as that's my crucial job, to help people understand why they do what they do, because most of the people know what they are doing, and you ask people, what do you do? You know, they're gonna tell you, well, I'm a waiter, you know, I'm a receptionist. You ask them how you do your job, you will receive a lot of different answers, you know, and then you ask them, why do you do this? And usually there's a, you know, blame. So I try to work on the how and on the why. So that's yeah. I'm working with my team on bringing it down to the next levels.
Yeah. So the communication is kind of the key here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. A lot of communication, a lot of honest, open-ended questions and answers, and trying to dig and understand the same question that you asked me, you know, what it is that motivates people, what it is that inspires them, and how they see themselves in this industry. And because there's so many misconceptions about our industry, so it's not easy, you know. That's you have now a lot of people who, or you used to have, at least prior to the crisis, that were almost blaming travel and tourism for half of the wrong things in the world. You know, it's like, oh, I'm sure you've heard about the travel shaming, you know, shaming people for traveling. I'm sure you heard about these concepts. It's like, oh, you know, your carbon footprint about. But I think we are seeing now that, and then, you know, the crisis started and people said, oh no, travel and tourism is not an essential need. You know, drop it. And then I think we are seeing that actually travel and tourism is quite an essential industry. 10% of the entire world GDP comes from travel and tourism. 11% of all of the people employed in the world are in travel and tourism. But leave that aside, the psychological aspect of traveling and tourism is very important to people. So to say in 2020 that travel and tourism is not an essential need is quite, it means not understanding the world we live in. I mean, probably in the 17th century it was not essential, but in the, in the 21st century, it's quite an essential industry. And we are in that industry. And sometimes, even bringing these simple facts to people makes them feel better about what they do, because we, in a way, we help people have better lives, so why not? At the end of the day, isn't that the uh, kind of the goal of the humanity, to have either to first to reduce the suffering and then the betterment of life. And we are providing that betterment for a lot of people. So, people should feel good about working in this industry. So sometimes even starting from the basics, it helps people understand what it is that they do and why they do it. Because it's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah. So how can we become, so to say, luxury experts? What makes us experts as a staff who works or will work for luxury hospitality organizations?
You first have to feel comfortable in doing what you will be doing. Whether you will become an expert, I mean, it's a question like for anything else. You need to put in the hours of reading and studying and practicing and working and questioning. So there is no shortcut. And when I say reading, I don't mean hospitality books. I mean everything. First of all, guests who come to luxury establishments are quite often very well educated people looking to find in for example in hotel managers or looking to find authentic educated people as well that they can converse with. But then if you're on the development side of things, you are also working with maybe world-renowned designers and world-renowned architects and developers. Again, you need to be more than just understand, and you need to understand more than just hospitality industry. You really need to understand the world. You need to understand the global, some at least elements of geopolitics. What is going on in the world and which part of the world is going up, which part of the world is going down. You need to understand more than the basics of economy. What it is that is driving things in the world. You need to keep an eye on different industries. What is going on with the airline industry, what is going on with the tech industry. You need to understand what are the trends, global trends in terms of the climate change, in terms of the sustainability practices, responsible practices. So, and then, you have to understand a bit of the art, a bit of the, so it's kind of, I think, it really requires quite a broad classical education in order to position yourself high up in this segment. Obviously, languages. So it's more, I would say, when it comes to the hospitality part, it's drive for excellence. But then on top of that is really building up all of these other things and testing it and trying it out and writing and putting yourself out there. And it's not simple. And then a lot of luck.
Yeah.
And then using that luck.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's move on the Maslina Resort concentrated questions. So you are an owner and founder of Paradox Hospitality, the bespoke and boutique hotel management company that deals with consulting, development, and management in the high hotel industry. And this firm stands also behind the Maslina Resort at island of Hvar. Now, what can you see as the main challenges associated with Maslina Resort now and maybe in the future?
Okay, let me just give you a quick brief background on Maslina. So Maslina Resort is a new resort that we just opened on the 16th of August. So just over a month ago. It was a project that was in the making for 4 years. We are positioning ourselves in the luxury segment of the industry. 50 rooms, 3 villas, a spa in a separate building, beach bar, organic garden with nearly 8,000 square meters, and all of that with this what we call now mindful luxury philosophy at the core of it. What are the challenges? Challenges are mainly currently related to the global challenges, the travel restrictions, and everything that comes with that. Locally, we have a lot of challenges with building the team, understanding, finding the local suppliers who are ready to deliver what we need. I'll just make a small digression. There is a famous restaurateur from Chicago called Charlie Trotter. He wrote a couple of amazing books. One is called Lessons in Excellence. Another one is called Lessons in Service, anyway, both amazing books. But Charlie Trotter said, in order to have the best restaurant in the world, you have to have the best location. You have to have the best ingredients. You have to have the best staff. You need to have the best equipment. You need to have the best service people for the equipment, and you have to have the best guests. So there is a lot of things. And for us, if we want to position ourselves as best in any category, we want to aspire for something. We have an amazing location. You could say already we have the best location, because it's really, but there are so many beautiful locations along the Adriatic, right? But this one is beautiful because it's kind of naturally secluded, protected from the winds, very green. The way the buildings kind of cascade down to the sea, beautiful location. Then we move on to finding the best staff. Can we have the best staff? I believe we can. Can we have the best team on the island of Hvar? I believe we can. But it's going to be a process for us to build that team. Can we have the best ingredients? Well, that becomes a bit more of a challenge, because we will be growing some of our own produce, but then we actually have to have all of our suppliers and all of our partners understand what it is that we want and why we want it, and why for us it's important that they give us what is in season, what is of high quality, and to develop these partnerships so that they also understand what they are doing and why are they doing it and how we are going to promote them. Then, as I said, we have good equipment. Can we have the best equipment in Croatia? No, because we don't have anybody to service the best equipment. There are no specialists to service. So we go for best available, and then we try to make partnerships with those people. So there is a challenge there. Can we have the best guests? Well, that also depends not only on us, it depends also on destination, because people choose, especially now after with this corona thing looming all over our heads, people are now choosing again destinations based on safety and security, and before choosing the resort or place to rest. So can we have them? I don't know. It's not only up to us. So there is plenty of challenges associated with our current project. I think I've touched some of them. If you want, I can go deeper deeper into any of them. But it's for example, what is the challenge? Challenge is that there is no other 10 luxury hotels in Croatia. You know, it's everybody says, wow, it's great that you are doing these things and that you're first, and are you afraid that somebody else will come and say no? Actually, it would be much easier if there was already 10 hotels. You know, I would there might be some people who would come from those properties to work with us, and a lot of this work. Now, I don't poach people, but people are free to move on their own, right? There is new property, they might come and apply for job. But a lot of suppliers would already have the experience of and would have gone through this process, and a lot of these things would already be in place. It's a challenge enough if you have to sort out one major thing, but when you have to sort out 5 or 10 major things, then it's a bit more than a challenge. It's really a life.
Yeah. So it's everything. It's much bigger picture than we can actually imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, you can break it down. You can break it down in you know, looking, as I said, now I was talking mainly about the product.
Yeah. Understand.
But then the processes, you know, I didn't even touch the challenges that are related to the processes of working in the Croatian bureaucracy and administration, of having no understanding for not for the lack of desire. I mean, I met incredible people in the administration who are really ready to help, but you know, they've never come across the questions that we are asking. They don't understand. You know, it's literally like, I'll give you an example. We posted a job ad back in March, and we said we are looking for guest assistants. And then they said, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean we can't do that? I said, we are hiring guest assistants, and then people will tell us where they see themselves. I said, we are all guest assistants. He said, we are hiring 70 guest assistants. Some of the guest assistants will be working in the restaurant, some will be working in the housekeeping, some will be working at the front desk, some will be senior guest assistants, as in supervisors, and somebody will be maybe a chief guest assistant, you know, as a hotel manager. And they said, oh, no, you can't do that. You have to clearly say, is it assistant to an assistant of the waiter? It's an assistant waiter, it's a waiter, it's a head waiter. You have to have exact job descriptions, you have to have, and the funny thing is, actually, this did not come from the administrative, from the Croatian bureaucracy. It came from a private company that is doing the advertising. Because they don't know, they said, no, we understand what you mean, but our system is not set up for these kind of job ads. You know, so I'm just touching on some of the challenges in terms of processes. Yeah. You know, for example, I mean, anything, just as soon as you step out of the framework, which has been built layer on top of the layer over the past, let's say, 70 years, because no matter what people say, but there is a continuity of 75 years of development of tourism, right? We were up until a few years ago, we were all dreaming of achieving the results from 1989. So we've reached those results from 1989, a few years back. But so there is this continuity of 75 years of experience and tourism development and hospitality development, and then the layers of administration and bureaucracy that came on top of that, still remaining something from the old times, and then something from the early days of Croatian independence. Then the European Union came on top of that. So you're really trying to cut your way through all of these layers and find a way in which you can do a business without breaking the law, without having a huge bureaucracy of your own in the team in order to tackle these problems. And then at the end of the day, after all of that, you're looking to deliver service to the guests, as opposed the other way around. This is and this is how we start. We say this is what we want to deliver to the guests, and then from then on, see what can we do to not get into the problem with the government, not to get into the problem with the local administration, not to get into the problem with the labor law, with all of these things. And here often the thinking is different. Let's first achieve this, and what is left is this much maneuvering position, very little. That's why most of the things look very same. People often wonder, why are the menus all over the place the same? You can go to a town or a city. I mean, I guarantee you right now, go to Dubrovnik and you will find 80% of the menus are copy-paste, right? Is it still like that? I mean, I remember we were doing this in 2003 with Dr. Jim Myers. I think he's still at RIT as a...
Yes, in fact, he is the president of the global office of RIT.
Yeah, so we were doing with Dr. Jim Myers, we actually looked into all of the restaurants around Dubrovnik, and we found out there was like, I mean, literally at that time, it was 95% of the menus were, I mean, almost copy-paste.
Right.
And it's not because people were stupid, not because people were, they didn't want to, but it was easier because, you just copied the normatives, the recipes, the formats. It was, because it's like a box. As soon as you would walk outside of this box, what do you do then? You face this surmounting number of challenges like we are now touching base. So yeah, let's go back. I've gone maybe too far into administrative problems.
Yeah.
Maybe I just interject over here just a little bit. We've recently done a research on menu design in Dubrovnik restaurant. And we actually wanted to establish the correlation between the Good Food Festival and improvement in menu design, meaning introducing new cooking techniques, maybe introducing new equipment, maybe retraining the personnel, maybe introducing the new ingredients and new fusion styles of cooking and whatnot. And we've actually established that there is change, although it is very gradual and happening slowly, but we can see that through a concerted effort of the whole destination, we can achieve something, but it is a gradual change. And the key is to involve the community, right? And to raise...
I think all proper change should be incremental change,
Right, exactly.
If the change is to take place, it should be incremental change. So if you are seeing the change, I think that's a great way forward.
Right. And it's really kind of both top driven, but it's also grassroots driven, and we can see it. So I think in the last 5 to 6 years, we've really seen some improvements. I mean, now whether the improvements that are done are enough, it's a different question, but it's definitely moving into the right direction. Over to you, Marusha.
Okay, thank you. You are, so to say, mastermind behind Maslina Resort, a love letter to the Mediterranean. Can you tell us a bit more about company's values and culture?
All right, so let's touch base here now. What I said before, I mentioned about mindful luxury. I think this is a good time to answer what luxury is in the most basic terms, in the economical sense of things. Luxury is defined by two aspects. One is hard access, and the other one is excess. When there is abundance of something for those who have hard access to it. So as soon as something becomes available to everybody, it's not a luxury anymore, it's a commodity. So when people are saying, this certain things should be available to everybody, I'm okay with that, I don't mind. but there will always be a luxury, because there will always be things that are not available to everybody, that is going to be hard. And that luxury is just going to move up or move down or left or right, but there will always be that element that is not accessible to everybody. We looked at this, I looked at this economic definition of hard access and excess, and I said, okay, hard access, that makes sense. You know, we are going to position ourselves in the price range that is going to make it hard for a lot of people to access. Because at the end of the day, it's a business as well, right? But how about excess? You know, I really don't like that concept of throwing things around, you know, of abundance. I thought that's not responsible. And maybe the modern travelers are not like the tourists of the old time and travelers of the old time, where they want to feel like they're throwing things around and this is how they're showing the riches. And we started coining this whole idea of being mindful about luxury, which stems down from the philosophy that I have developed already many years back, that I call responsible hospitality. And because I'm sure you hear a lot about the concept of sustainability, right? And it's the buzzword for a few years now. I really don't know what it means. You know, I think it's one of those lost words that have no meaning at all. It's almost used by the people who are sitting on some kind of high moral chair to throw it down to you because, oh, this is not sustainable, and then you should be feeling ashamed of yourself or something like that. Sustainability would presume that you know what your actions will do. You know, oh, this is what we do, and we know that in the future this will cause some betterment for Earth, planet Earth. We are supposed to save the planet Earth. Wow. Whereas when we look into the past and you look to the past 50, 60, 70 years of sustainability practices, many of them turned out to be producing more problem than solving them. So I said, okay, and how about we do what we think is responsible, as opposed to putting ourselves into this category of being sustainable and saving the world, saving the planet Earth. How about we do what is responsible? What is responsible both to the community and to the nature, in the context that we are in. I mean, you can't tell a person in Shanghai to apply same sustainable practice as a person on the island of Hvar, you know, because it's two different worlds. There's 20 million people living there on the size of the island of Hvar, or a bit larger. You know, there is 12,000 of us living here in the winter. It's you know, how come these practices almost have a global application? No, you have to do what is responsible. First, starting from yourself and then expanding the circles, understanding your little community, your family, your friends, your little town, your island, or your wider region. And then maybe when you understand, then moving on to the world and moving on to the human race and all sentient beings and all whatever, you know. So responsible practices. And we said, okay, what is responsible? How can we be responsible? Well, we can be responsible by hiring local people from the local community and by involving them. You know, wow, that's great. You know, by working with local suppliers. Simple, right? But then again, what is responsible further on is making things that are easy for us to understand and that have common sense in them. You know, it's like, I'll give you a few examples of what we've done at Maslina. We've looked at phasing out single-use plastic. So we said, okay, we would like to have no single-use plastic at the property. Great. And then I asked the team, can we guys do this? And then everybody says, yeah, in the bar we can do it, in the restaurant we can do it, at the spa we can do it, housekeeping a bit more difficult, but we can do it. And then you have a chef from the kitchen calling saying, well, guys, we don't really have a perfect replacement for the kitchen plastic film yet. And then we say, okay, so are we going to tell the world that we are single-use plastic-free hotel? No, because we are still going to use plastic film because we don't really have a good replacement for it yet. But are we doing 99% of what we can do? Yes. And then does that somehow make us, not sustainable? No. I mean, we are doing what's responsible. We are doing as much as we can until a better solution comes and everybody understands it. We don't make it into an ideology. We don't make it into a religion. Even if it happens that all of a sudden a piece of plastic shows up, we are not going to shoot anybody down. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes we lose the sight of things that doing 90% of something is an amazing achievement. Doing 80% of something is great. I mean, if you get 80% on your score, that you feel good about yourself. If you get 90%, that's A, right? Is that still A minus? What is it?
Yes, correct.
I mean, that's an amazing score. If you're doing 80%, 90%, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's either 100% or nothing. Then then we said, okay, we are not going to use single-use plastic. We are going to have, for example, in the guest rooms, we are going to have all the shampoos, conditioner, and all of those guest amenities, in-room guest amenities in the large bottles. And we've called one local company from Croatia. I reached out to the owner and I said, we would like you to make for us all of these in-room guest amenities, and I would like it to be 100% of organic nature, of natural origin. And the guy said, wow, amazing idea. The shelf life of that will be 7 days. I was like, okay, that doesn't really make sense for us financially if we have to throw all of our inventory every 7 days. He says, but if you do it 99% of natural origin, the shelf life can be 2 years. I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. We are going to do 99% natural origin and 1% some kind of preservative that keeps it from falling apart for 2 years. It's like, these are the things that for me are so simple and so commonsensical. And when you explain them to people, but they are not an ideology, they are not this movement that's trying to prove to the world something. No, this is a responsible practice. We are doing as much as we can in our context and within our understanding. I mean, there is so much we don't have a clue about. Actually, most of the things we don't know anything about. So given within our small frame of our limited knowledge and available resources, keeping in mind that we are still a business, that if it doesn't make profit, it's not a business, it's going to fall apart, and that's not going to be useful for anybody. This, and then trying to apply all of these little things and find an intersection between these circles. And then when you have that intersection in the middle, explain it to people. Why are you doing it? And then all of a sudden, your culture starts coming up on its own. You don't have then to shove it down anybody's throats. The culture awakens on its own.
Yeah, I understand. So on the Maslina Resort website, we can see a statement, mindful luxury in the heart of Mediterranean. Can you explain what exactly the mindful luxury concept is and what is it all about?
Yeah, so pretty much what I've said up until now. I mean, there's plenty more things. We looked into architecture and we said how we can make low visual impact. How can we make the hotel pretty much disappear into the background? And it was the job of the architect to make it low visual impact. Then we looked at then we looked at what it is that the island is about. We have 6 different UNESCO protections, which is more than any other island in the world. And we said, okay, let's build our product around that. That's also being mindful. Being mindful. What is mindfulness? You see, we are touching on all of these terms that are, as I said, we kind of walk around thinking that everybody understands them. being mindful means being aware. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually quite simple. You know, is what it is that I'm doing. You know, what it is that I'm doing right now. You know, being aware of what you do, being present. I'm now talking to you guys. That means, and I'm focused and I'm present. That actually means being mindful. Being mindful means being aware of what your actions, how your actions will impact maybe others as well. How will they impact the guests? And you know, being mindful means walking through a restaurant and seeing a piece of paper on the floor and picking it up. You know, that's it's not not everything has to have these deep philosophical explanations. Most of the things are actually quite simple, and the people who came up with these ideas back in the day started with simple concepts, you know, for reducement of suffering, or reduction of suffering and betterment of life. They didn't have the complicated formulas and explanations for it sometimes that you have to read 25 books in order to understand it. No, it's actually quite simple, you know, very, very, very simple. And then again, do you reach a level of mindfulness and then, you know, now all of a sudden you are better than others? No. It's, you know, you can be mindful 3 days and then go and then not, and then be mindful again and then be aware. I mean, it's so many things, you know. You're affected by everything that goes on in your environment, in your family, among your friends, at your school, in the country, in the world. You know, it was very difficult to be mindful during the lockdown, because we are all bombarded with so much information that being aware, being present, being focused. I mean, I must say, I have been struggling lately to be mindful. You know, and I have been preaching it for years. Not preaching it as a preacher, but trying to tell people what it is. And I mean, some close people to me are telling me that I'm not being really present, and because I'm also overwhelmed with everything that's going on around me. So, you know, it doesn't mean like, okay, now you're level 5 and then you're fine, level 8, wow. No, it's like everything in life, you go up and down. So this is, you know, everything we do comes down to some basic life philosophies. It's not divorced. Business is not divorced from life. Hospitality is not divorced from life. I mean, you can't be a different person in life and in a hotel. This idea that was promoted sometime throughout, I guess, end of 19th or sometime throughout 20th century. You put a uniform at any work that you do, and then now you become a different person. It does change a little bit to a small extent, but not enough for you to really be an authentic person. Yeah, I mean, I like putting on a suit and a shirt, sometimes not a tie anymore, or dressing up to feel a bit better, you know. But does that change me as a person? No, it makes me feel a bit better, but it doesn't really change me as a person. So there is no divorce between these things. It's all uh, one and same life, really. And then whatever you do in private life will affect what you do at your professional life, and it will come. If you strive for excellence in your private life, you will strive for excellence in your professional life, and then you will be able to work in this industry at the highest levels, if that makes you happy.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes perfect
Yep.
sense. I'm just mindful of time. We have around 10, 15 minutes. I have 2 questions for you, Zoran, if you would allow me. First, the changing definition of luxury. You and I and our couple of colleagues have been discussing this
Yes.
Since a number of years, privately and publicly.
Yeah, you have organized back in the day that panel in Dubrovnik, right?
Right, I think that was 2015 or 14, right? I mean, we were
I think, yeah, probably 14. Yeah, it was you, Alan Mandic, myself,
and Mark
it was
Thomas.
Mark Thomas. We will define, discussing luxury, yeah.
So we were even then discussing the changing definition of luxury, and I think that that topic has become a bit more mainstream in the last few years. Can you please explain from your perspective of being a public speaker and global traveler on these conferences, and just maybe to introduce this to our audience, you are, I think, maybe one of the two persons who are from this region who get invited to these high level, I would say, philosophical panels and discussions. So can you please just explain the context in which these conversations happen, and also what you are discovering in terms of the changing definition of luxury?
What I'm discovering is that there is people who truly attempt to understand what is happening in the world, and then are able to discuss it. And there are those who are just repeating the same phrases over and over. That's the first major difference. And often you will run into people who are full of bombard you with these kind of phrases that really mean anything, because if you dig deeper, you will find nothing underneath. People who try to really understand it will be a bit more, as you said, philosophical than ideological. How is it changing? I mean, it's changing. Obviously, the technology is changing it. You know, the technology is driving it. The mediums are changing. The world has been, you could argue that we are same, you know, as human beings for the last, whatever, 10,000 years, you know, since the first civilizations. And our makeup is probably the same. You know, I don't think there is any proof of any evolution of Homo sapiens as a species. But what is changing around this is the environment and the medium. You know, and you know, the way the printing press changed the world, the way the newspaper changed the world, the way the internet is changing the world. Obviously, for our industry, for the hospitality and the luxury, or overall the luxury industry in total, is again, it's the technology. You know, I mean, you look at the richest person at the end of the 19th century. I mean, the Rockefeller family. You know, half of them died from almost half of their kids died from diseases that are today treated with the basic antibiotics, right? So in today's money, they would be up there with I don't know, Bill Gates and these guys as the billionaires. So whatever luxury they had and what was concept of the luxury back then is obviously very different than what it is today. And it, you know, because all of their money couldn't afford them even to survive, you know, to survive the basic medical problems, or we consider today basic. At that time, they were, you know, those things have become commodity. What was then luxury, trying to save somebody's lives, today has become commodity. Luxury has moved somewhere else. But it's not because it's the technology that's moving it, right? It's the innovation.
Okay.
And now we are observing. We are mainly observing to see what is going to, you know, in what way is the social media is impacting our lives, in which way this incredible connectivity that we have, the information overload, in which way, you know, for example, now people are looking to disconnect, and that's why, for example, Maslina feels right in the new era of luxury. Let's call it post-corona luxury that's going to come. You know, there's a place that is remote yet easily accessible. You know, when you're in the heart of Europe, but you're still remote, so you can detach from the rest of the world. That's not something that I'm driving. That's something that the context is driving. You know, people wanting to get away from the cities. Again, it's not what the three of us are driving. Is the context that's driving. You know, people imagining again, oh, now we don't want to be living in a 70 or 80 or 100 square meter beautiful apartment in the middle, in the center of the city. Rather live in a house in the village, you know. And then also like that, not staying at the maybe at the Ritz in Paris, but looking for a castle outside of Paris. So, you know, understanding these movements is what will tell us what will the future of luxury will look like. Yeah, it's really, for me, it's observing, hearing, and telling people. I just want to touch base now here something on what is the problem for us today in the industry. It's people are often not living their own experiences, they're living other people's experiences. And that is driving the industry, all of luxury industry, but our travel and tourism very much, is people are not really, when they come to a place, they do not allow themselves to experience it on their own. They are comparing it to other people's experiences they've seen on social media. You know, because they have built up an expectation. It's kind of like future memories. You know, now you're saying, I'm gonna go to New York, and then you follow 10 people. Before, when you would say you would go to New York, you would take a book and you read up. So you would find more like data, how big is the city, what are the famous places to visit, but you would not have these clear images, which are actually not even true, because they are photoshopped, they are only the fragments of real life.
Exactly.
So you would build up expectation, but not in the same way like you're building up expectation now. You're actually building your future memories, which are, when you come to a place, you're then reliving future memories, right, instead of experiencing it. And then you have people saying, but I've seen this person receiving this type of treatment and you're not offering it anymore and I'm not happy. I say like, but are you happy with what you've received? Yes, but that's not the same as the other one received. But how do you know? I mean, we've changed, we evolved, we decided to change things. I mean, this is, for example, what is affecting luxury very much as well, and luxury travel and hospitality, and I mean, world in general. But because the luxury aspect is something that a lot of people are striving for, it's really, really affecting our industry. You know, this kind of getting back into this experiential travel, transformational. How experiential and transformational travel can occur if you're not experiencing it. Right. You know, if you're not allowing yourself to be transformed. You know, what does transformation? You can't be transformed if you are not open to the idea of being transformed. You can't be open to the idea of being transformed if you have an overload of future expectations. So, for example, this is a major element that I think addresses some of your questions there, Domagoj, about what it is that I'm hearing and what it is that I'm also addressing at these travel shows and conferences and talking to my colleagues. And how do we bring back people to when they, it's almost like we would have to train and to give them a little training when they come to our places and say, guys, how about relax now, forget about everything you've read up, everything that you built up as your expectations, and try just to enjoy it as it is, for what it is. And then at the end, tell us if you really enjoyed it. Forget about the Instagram photos, but unfortunately, a lot of people are coming only for that, right, so that they can share their life on social media. So, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm not here to judge. I'm just talking about it as a challenge of what it is. A challenge. Sometimes people say, "Oh, there was not transformational experience." You know, okay. Right. You know, we can only provide the platform. We can only provide the means, the context in which. But it's up to you. It's up to the person if they're going to engage with the local community, with the local cuisines, with local language, with the local customs and cultures, and take it in and say, wow, you know, I've learned so much, you know, it really changed me. And so
In transformational experience, it is actually the customer who is the product, because the customer is the product of transformation. So, and these experiences are naturally co-created between the provider and the customer. So you need both. And I think, I mean, maybe just to expand, but not too much, I think that we have a bifurcation now. We have those people, generally speaking, who are caught up with the social media and kind of living that reality that has become archetypical for them. And then they compare their true reality with the framework of the social media constructed reality, which is completely fake. And this is why all sorts of weird things happen. And then we have other people who actually understand not just the liberating effects of technology, but they also understand the dehumanizing effects of technology. So they're trying to both use technology, but they're also trying to escape from technologies. And this is why we have a lot more of people who are practicing mindfulness, yoga, gardening, permaculture. And in some sense, once upon a time, maybe consuming a lot was a trademark of luxury. Today, it's more like gaining control over your body, mind, time, and all those things, and kind of, you know, filter the artificial reality out from your system. And I really want to commend you, Zoran, because I think that your mindful luxury resort, Maslina, is really a sign, or it really provides a platform for something like that to happen. So I really wish you well with this project, and I only hope that you will be able to gain that market, and that you will not be disrupted too much by the COVID, which actually leads me to the next question that I had, which is COVID. Right. I mean, for you, it happened in the worst possible situation, didn't it? Right. You were just about to open the resort.
yeah.
And then
So
the COVID.
we officially initiated our pre-opening process in December of 2019, which was 6 months before the opening. So usually, like, you say, okay, now we are in the pre-opening phase. We are kind of crossing over from the project and development into pre-opening. That was 6 months for us before opening, because we were aiming to open in May. And, you know, December, January, I'm still traveling. I saw signs of it already in January, and I've even sent an email to the owner saying end of January, there is something rolling behind the hill. This doesn't sound good. And I remember on 24th of February, I told them, okay, this is really not good. There might be no season at all. We might be, you know, and still most of the world was pretending like there is nothing going on. Not to get into the actual problems of the virus, I'm mostly talking about the way we are handling it and the effects of our handling of it, which the time will tell was it good or not. So we can only, and I don't pretend to understand the problems of the virus itself and how it spreads and all of these things, but I can comment on the effects of the actions that followed, both in economic sense and in the what it does to people, what it does to our industry. And I mean, the lockdown that ensued, you know, brought pretty much our business to a halt. The whole industry, travel and tourism, came to a halt. I mean, I don't think there was ever a case that such a global industry has ever came to a halt in this way. Because people, the world was never connected like this. So it was like it is today. So probably there was never a chance for things to come to a standstill at the same time like they did this time. But this is really a first time. And you know, we were all looking kind of into each other and into like, okay, what now? You know, people can't travel. What do we do? How do we keep communicating? What kind of messages do we put out there? Are we kind of showing lack of understanding for the suffering of the people? If we are promoting luxury, if we are promoting traveling, you know, it's almost like people are saying, you know, you can't promote traveling because that shows you are whatever completely devoid of all emotions for the people who are suffering. So there's so many challenges occurred at the same time. Us locally here having the construction pretty much halted, not being able to bring the team on the island, not being able to deliver the trainings, to the global problems of the travel restrictions and how and problems of communications. You know, can we say, oh well, we'll be back and people will resume traveling? No, initially it was really like, okay, no, you can't say anything. You know, this is like, wow, really bad. You know, just talk about how bad it is. But then slowly we've seen how people actually really, and this is where I'm coming about travel and tourism being an essential need. It will come back. There will be differences. Um, to which extent? I mean, there is economic aspects. Obviously, some people will not have enough money to travel, but that doesn't mean that they will not want to travel. So they will maybe travel less, or they will not be, instead of traveling long haul, they will be traveling short haul. They will be exploring their own front yards or backyards. I mean, we can learn from some previous economic crises like the 2008, when, you know, the Europeans were traveling more in Europe as opposed to traveling to Far East, and Americans were traveling more within the Caribbean and the States, and Japanese were exploring the Southeast Asia and China. And then as the crisis kind of, as the money started coming back in, then we've seen Europeans going again all over the world, and then Japanese coming to Europe, and the Americans coming back to Europe. So a lot of these things we already know, not know, but we have experienced before, and we can assume that there are some similarities that will happen again. So yeah, the travel and tourism will restart. There are industries that will be affected more. MICE will be affected very much, you know, because there is a corporate reputation there at risk, as opposed to individual travelers who have only their own reputations risk, and not really, even what if you contract the virus, it's not a big deal. But if you're a corporate entity, and then you have organized an event in which something happened on a big scale, then you're in all of the media, and that affects your image. So a lot of the companies will be very cautious on how to move forward. So it's going, that segment is going to take a little bit more time. But I think leisure travel will people attempted this summer. I mean, if you've given people who used any window of opportunity. I mean, I don't know, have you seen probably the most craziest thing? 2 days ago, Qantas Airlines sold a flight to nowhere in 10 minutes.
Oh,
So
amazing.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah, I think it's from Sydney with a Dreamliner, full airplane, flying low above Great Barrier Reef and alongside the coast of Australia, and coming back. That's
amazing.
It. They sold it in 10 minutes.
Right. How humans react to the lockdown. Right. So how human spirit actually leans, always strives for liberation, right, from any kind of oppression, whether it's real or
I mean, you could argue that these lockdowns are probably the greatest experiment in human history. Right. You know, trying to lock down hundreds of millions of people.
Imagine the pressure that it's building. Imagine the pressure that it's building, right?
Yeah, it's like a pressure cooker, yeah.
Right, and then where that energy is going to go. Obviously, one of the ways it will go is through travel whenever it's possible.
Yeah, as long as people retain some of the economical means.
Right.
If they don't, then I prefer not to think where the pressure cooker is going to take people. So I think it would be important for people in power to understand that they need to allow people to move out again of their little confined spaces.
So let's hope politicians or people in charge understand these processes All right. Marusha, back to you again. Anything else that you would like to ask our guest before we close?
No, I think we covered also the whole last section I prepared, so we answered all the questions.
Right.
That's
Okay.
everything from my side.
Thank you both. Ladies first. Marusha, thanks for helping me with this interview. Thanks for stepping up to this challenge. You've done a great job. Zoran, what to say? I'm looking forward to our future discussion. And thank you for coming back yet again. And I want to re-emphasize what you just said. So traveling is necessary. It is essential. Navigare necessare est, right?
Yes.
Yeah, living is not necessary, but
right. We figured that long time ago that sailing is necessary. It's absolutely right. That means that the traveling is necessary. So it's not actually 21st century invention, 20th century invention. So
they actually said, I mean, just for our students who do not maybe who for the first time are encountering this expression, sailing is necessary. There is also another part of that saying, which is living is not necessary.
Yeah.
But sailing is necessary, meaning if you want to live, you need to sail, right? So if you want to live, you need to travel. And this is why in many spiritual schools, we know that those people who travel are seen as having like special spiritual role in the society, as being actually the angels of culture, those who connect people and who make humanity's life on the earth possible. So,
yeah, I mean, you could argue that some of the earliest travelers or even tourists, I know that people would not want to hear it that way, were those that were traveling for months and years to visit some holy sites, right?
Right, of course. And even if you go to Islam, right, Muhammad says that those who travel, trade people are actually those who provide that service. And then if you go to the Bible, obviously, Jesus and his disciples and apostles, they travel all the time, right? I mean, Saint Paul and others. So
there is very little stationary stories like, oh, we were here and we got stuck and we stayed until the end of our life. And there's always the traveling, it's the journey.
Right.
And
so so basically New Testament is a road movie. So we can see it in that framework. Okay. Nice talking to you. Wheels moving in our brains as always. Okay, thank you both.
Thank you for inviting me. You know, Domaga, you can always count on me. And Marusha, if you have any questions, you have my email. Please ask. And I hope that this course that you're putting together, if I understand correctly, will have more speakers, right?
Yes.
I really think that hearing from the people who are at the forefront of the industry is extremely valuable, and often we are looking at best past practices, and it's one of the problems of the schooling system, you know, is often, well, what can you do, right? There is very limited options to what you can do. Is you're trying to present the student with best past practices. But often, you know, sometimes you're talking practices from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, because by the time they are established as best and then they're put into books and prepared and presented to you, they're maybe 20 years old. And then by the time you get to implement them, it's another 5 or 10 years. And then in today's world, maybe in the world of the past, something that has been going on 20 years seems like a short period of time. Right now, 30 years seems like 3 lifetimes. And especially now, imagine teaching things pre-corona world, in the post-corona world that will come, will seem almost completely obsolete, but there will be no ability to completely change the curriculum so quickly. So I think doing this and talking to people who are actually experiencing it and going through it and thinking about what to actually do is extremely valuable. And I think this what you're doing, Domagoj, putting together this kind of class is amazing, and I hope that students understand it, how valuable this is to their future, and not just in the hospitality segment, but in general life.
Thank you. And thank you for providing support, and thank you for providing us with contacts, because you are part of it as much as I am. So thank you, Zoran. Thank you, Marusha.
Pleasure.
And this is the end of our conversation.